Welcome back, everybody. This is Real Estate Uncensored, the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. And we've got a great conversation on deck for you today. Daniel Ramsey of My Outdesk is here, and Greg is not. So this is going to be awesome because I get to run the show, and I don't have to worry. We can talk shit about Greg behind his back. It's going to be awesome. Daniel, you and I were chatting before we recorded on just how you and I met. We met years ago at a Keller Williams family reunion in beautiful and scenic Orlando, Florida, courtesy of Frank, my mentor and my old boss, who's now a good friend of mine, sent me down there. Yeah. And I think I essentially spent we must have spent like 8 hours in that freaking booth talking to agents and getting to know each other. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I fondly remember that day because my feet hurt like crazy standing 14 hours. You and I are just talking client after client after client and helping them grow their business, you know?
Yep. Yes. And we love talking to real estate agents. We joke and we kid, but we love talking to real estate agents.
Oh my goodness.
But for those that don't know you, because I'm surprised we haven't had you on the show up until now, which is a massive oversight on my part, because we should have had you on starting years ago, because we talk a lot about freedom on the show. And to me, like essentially when anybody asks me, like, what's the first thing I'd recommend doing? A lot of times I tell them like, hey, hire somebody. Right. Like, literally right now, hire somebody, because whether you think you need them or not, you need the leadership experience. You're probably doing a bunch of low value stuff you don't need to be doing, and you should hire somebody to do it starting yesterday. So it's funny. I tell people that all the time. And so catch us up a little bit. Just what is My Outdesk?
Yeah. So I'm a real estate broker. I love real estate. It's crazy. I'm driving with my kids, in the neighborhood, and I'm like, ooh, open house. Yeah. Babe, I got to just stop for like 2 minutes. Can I just run through this house really quick? Like, I can't get it out of my blood. Right. And so I'm a real estate broker, and I love this industry. I love what we do to help serve the community of real estate. And I mean, basically, if you think about it, like the origin story is just, it's every real estate broker's problem, right? I'm on my honeymoon. I'm in Guatemala. I'm at a Francis Ford Coppola's like bungalow in the trees with monkeys. Like, we're doing Mayan ruins. Like, I'm not kidding you. And I'm married all of 2 days. Okay. And I'm at the bar at like 2 a.m. closing a real estate transaction. Right. Ugh. So if you're listening right now, agents, we don't get real vacations. We're constantly distracted. We've got to be on, we're coordinating 15 million different things at once. Plus we're married or in a relationship. Plus we got kids. Plus maybe one day I'd like to go to the dang gym and get a workout in, So like, yeah, I got back from my honeymoon and I was like, this has got to change. Something's got to shift in my world. Otherwise, I'm just never, ever, ever going to get ahead of it. And so that's how My Outdesk was started.
So today, what does My Outdesk do? And we'll tie that back into kind of the freedom conversation. But what do you guys help real estate agents do?
Sure. If you NAR, so our association, National Association of Realtors, they represent that it takes 45 hours to close one transaction. You've got to do the lead, the prospecting, then you got to do the follow-up, then you got to do an appointment where you actually get the listing. Then you got to show them houses, because if they're going to sell theirs, they got to go somewhere. That takes 9 hours. Then you've got all the paperwork, then you've got settlement. And when you add all that up, NAR says it takes 45 hours to close one transaction, right? And so people ask us like, well, what do? We take those 45 hours and turn them into 5 so that you do only the important work, only the stuff that you as the broker or licensee or as the face of the business can do. There's a handful of things that only you can do. And then we take everything else, from the marketing, from the sales to the paperwork, everything in the transaction, so you simply focus on building relationships and growing your revenue.
Okay. And the mechanism for doing that is by supplying a virtual assistant that reports to them, right? So you're not saying that you're going to do everything. They just turn everything kind of over to you, and you have a system that you run it through, and now pops the other side of the transaction. We're talking about a human being that works for them, that does these functions for them, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. What you're talking about is a fantasy, right? Where you raise your hand and then commission comes out the other
Yeah,
end.
it's like the magic black box.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
does not happen. But what we do, think about this, like the one difference between billionaires and everyone else is like, if you think about a billionaire, right? A guy who decides, I'm going to buy a sports team, like whatever, the Knicks, right?
Mhm.
Well, he doesn't go in and think, how am I going to run this team? How am I going to make them champions? How am I going to, upgrade their facility and get a new arena? A billionaire thinks in terms of who's.
Yeah.
Who do I need to really to win, right? And that's what I'd like. And I love, Matt, where you were going with that. That's what I'd like the audience to be challenged with. Like, if I was right now in your office sitting with you across the desk, I'd ask you, hey, what do you need to do in order to double your business? Like what is it what's the one or two things, or maybe three, that you can go from closing 20 deals to closing 40, or 40 to 80? And a double in the real estate world, our clients do it all the time. In fact, last year we've either saved people or helped them grow their business by over $100 million. We actually did a survey just to say, hey, how much value have we brought? And it was like over $100 million, because we're either saving people money or helping them grow their revenue.
Yeah. And man, on the doubling conversation is interesting. That's a whole thing.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's a capacity-based business. You guys, I mean, even if you don't know it, like if you met one more person a month who raised their hand and said, go ahead and sell my house, that probably has a material impact to your net profit at the end of the year. Well, if I gave you back 35 hours of every single transaction, what would you do with that time? How would you grow your revenue? Would you go to the gym? Would you see your kids maybe before they're 30? Like the question is, if you could double, what needs to happen, and what part of your job should you give away and give to somebody?
Yeah, it's the questions are really powerful. I mean, questions can really change your world. And you're right. Like I talked to Greg Harrelson and I have these conversations a lot, because we talk a lot about going from an agent to entrepreneur. What's the difference between that? And a lot of times it's the questions that you ask yourself. And so you brought up a great point. A billionaire asks who. They're always looking for the person. And one of the hardest things, I think, because you and I have had a lot of the same conversations with agents, which is, hey, I'm going to double my business next year. Great. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do more phone calls. Like, good luck with that, because I'm guessing you don't love phone calls. Otherwise, you'd probably already be doing more of them now. Yes. So if you think you're going to double the number of phone calls you make, and you're already, I mean, even if you're super disciplined, let's say you're spending 3 hours a day on the phones already, are you realistically going to double either the number of phone calls you're going to make, or double the effectiveness of the phone calls you're already making? Probably not. So to me, a lot of agents start out with the wrong question, which is, how can I do more X to get more sales? Where a true entrepreneur is going to ask themselves a completely different question. They're not trying to squeeze the last little bit of productivity out of every single day. They're asking themselves questions like, oh, who can I get to do this that would be better than I am? And that's where I think that's a really, really powerful question. That starts at the lowest levels by who can handle, who could be making this call to the termite inspector. Like, does this really require me to do this? Probably not. But it also goes all the way up to prospecting and marketing. Who needs to be posting this on social media? Do I need to be? Probably not. There's only a few things that most agents are really good at. So I do love that question. I think if we asked ourselves the who question more often, we'd all be a lot further. I find myself challenged in that every day.
Yeah. Well, and I want to bring another question that is just, I believe is the most important. After the who, the next thing is, what am I currently doing? We have this, I have this friend, she focuses on South America, and she sells investment funds down to South America. So if you're listening, This is my non-real estate, example, and I hate to use it, but I love this gal. She's under 30. She makes more than $1 million a year. And she did this next step, which is, we call it the sticky challenge, where you just carry around stickies along with your day. And then you write down, am I doing dollar productive stuff or non-dollar productive stuff? And then you start to categorize what your day actually looks like. And in this case, her name's Cody. She actually was finding that she was spending 67% of her day on like silly dumb, non-important, non-needle turning, task. And so she came to us and we're like, well, what if we did this? And like, it completely changed her world. In fact, she just sold her business after 3 years of us being in a relationship for millions of dollars. Ha ha ha. So
finally, she can buy those laser sharks she's had her eyes set on this whole time.
Well, and here's the thing, right? And so with Cody and with you and anybody who's listening right now, the question is, after realizing who you might need to grow, you have to start asking yourself, am I doing the most important work? In real estate, we have highest and best use, right? You don't put apartments on a corner, you put a gas station. There's a reason there's more revenue in gas. Well, as the leader of your business, as the person who is the brand, the face, whatever, do you really think 90% of your day could be given away to somebody else? The answer is probably,
Well, let's talk about the limiting beliefs to that just a little bit, because that is where the hangups the hangups start pretty early, which is that, well, my clients would never accept that. I mean, that's a very basic one. So let's start with that objection or that limiting belief first. So how do you overcome that?
Well, the truth is, I'm in this boat, Matt, you and I, right? I am very good at one thing and I crush it. I don't have to do a lot of, like this conversation, it costs me no prep because I'm passionate about it. I know it. I love it. We know each other. So this is my one thing. I can do this without even, I can roll out of bed and have this conversation 2 minutes later. Right.
Yep.
So it's my one area of genius. Right. Now, as a real estate, person, let's hope that negotiating transactions and like getting clients is your one area of genius, right? You know how to network, you know how to market, you're getting clients and negotiating deals. That's your one genius. Well, everything else you're probably not that good at, but what you have to do is you have to think of like, who do I need on my team to handle all that stuff? And when you give them the process and the system to handle it in so that they can do it just like you would if you had time, which you don't. But if you had time, you do it like this, and then you hand that system or process over to them, and then they do it exactly the way you'd want. Guess what? They're actually going to do a better job than you ever could because they don't have 15 million things in their day going on. They have.
Yes. And that is the trap of being like, let's say you're actually really good at a lot of things. That's also a trap. Because it keeps you in lower value activities for longer because you convince yourself, well, I'm good at this stuff.
Right.
But it doesn't matter, especially if your stated goal is to grow your business or even double your business, like something has to change. And in order to double a business, something drastic has to change. And a lot of times that means giving up something where we're comfortable. And a lot of times those comfortable things are the things where we're able to kind of work behind the scenes on the business. And we think that it's important and maybe we're even good at it, but it doesn't matter. The business, in order for a real doubling to happen, we have to change something. A lot of times that means giving up something that we might actually be good at, but somebody else would be better.
Well, but the thing is, like, whether you're good at it or you're not good at it, I think that's immaterial. In fact, I think, like you said, it might be more of a hindrance, right? But the truth, so I was just in San Francisco at a kind of a mastermind with these really successful people that work on the peninsula. And if you follow like San Francisco Bay Area real estate, they're paying like $1,000 per square foot for real estate over there. So these are high-end, really productive agents. And I got a chance to meet Jean, one of our clients, and she's an amazing person. And she was just telling her story. Like 2 years ago, she went to Japan on vacation with her family. And so her husband and kids. And so during the day, she was literally touring. There's lots of cool things to see in Japan. And then at night, she was actually closing transactions because she didn't want it to, she didn't. And so she was just nervous about giving it away. That control really mattered to her. And so she went on a 7-day vacation and basically didn't sleep. And so she came back and she ran into my outdesk, and now it's been 2 years. It took her 90 days to get the person up to speed, but now not only do her agents, because she's a broker, so not only do her agents have a place when they need help, but she can go on vacations. She's now talking about how to grow and double the amount of agents on her team. She's had one of the most productive years that she had last year because she finally had somebody to help her. And, and this is a really productive, very, high-end real estate broker.
Yeah. Well, and take me back a little bit. So when you were running because this all came from your own need, like you were running and then ended up building a very successful team on your own. What did you start out? Because I want to talk about what My Outdesk does to make it easier now, because you've figured a bunch of things out since then. But when you were kind of flailing around in the dark, kind of figuring this out for the first time, what did that look like when you actually had to hire somebody yourself, find them, go out to the market and find them, and then bring them on and train them yourself with no other training?
Right. Well, I've got two things in that world. One thing that I probably the most important is, as salespeople, we don't really focus on systems and process. And we just had Steve Murray, the founder of Real Trends, on maybe a couple months ago, and he was talking about he's gone through 736 real estate transactions where he actually represented the real estate broker or company in one side of that transaction to sell the business, right? So we're all here to sell a business or to grow our revenue, to eventually sell, to eventually have an exit, because we're either growing revenue or sucking the profits out or getting ready to sell. Like, those are the three spots that we're in if you're owning your own company and you want to grow something big. But he said the one differentiator between businesses that get big multiples and little tiny baby multiples is the systems and process that are in that business. And I think a lot of our clients, and I did too, fell down in the beginning because that's just not intuitive for a real estate person. What do you mean? I got to do a checklist? Creating a checklist is actually a system. It's not a sophisticated one, but it can be as easy as that. Like, every time you get a listing, here's the 14 things that we do. And after we put it live, here's the 170 things that we do as a company. And that's probably the biggest challenge that I had and that our clients have in the beginning.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've been through that stage from both sides of it. I've been through the stage where I didn't have systems yet, and I worked with the person to create the systems, and that can work really well because then they get a say in what the system looks like. Yep. I've also been on the other side of it where the systems are already developed and you're bringing in somebody to replace or help somebody move up into another role. And so you bring in somebody to replace them, and they're being plugged into systems that are already established, especially with people who tend to be really good long-term happy operations people. They love to step into an environment where there's already systems, or if there's not systems, the goal is to build them as quickly as humanly possible. And that's what they need from you. So if you're an agent, you don't feel like you have systems and processes yet, obviously you can start getting a jump on them by just kind of documenting what you're doing, taking the sticky challenge and stuff like that. That helps. But yeah, if you're bringing in somebody into the business, the goal should never be to like mentor them and have them just shadow you and then just start taking over stuff that you do. The goal should always be, if there's not already a system in place, build it as quickly as possible, get something rudimentary up there, and then you just keep on tweaking it. So let's contrast that, which, like going straight to the market, trying to find people on overseas job boards and Facebook groups and blah, blah, blah. Let's contrast that with what the experience is like dealing with you guys now that you figured a whole bunch of stuff out and the VAs are essentially showing up kind of pre-trained on real estate specifically, especially. So what does that look like now for clients?
Well, here's the big thing. Real estate is complicated. And so in the US, we do real estate differently than the rest of the whole world. I mean, even other Western countries like Australia and the UK and Canada, it's just done differently. So we've put together a training platform. We have over 223 different courses. It's automated. They're tests at the end, and it covers every aspect of being in real estate. But what it doesn't do, Matt, is because I've never met a real estate person who does it the same, right? Greg Harrelson does it different than I did. And even guys in my own office, like guys who worked for me as a broker, they would do it differently. So, we give them a baseline, like, here's what real estate is, here's what the industry is. And then our clients need to step in and kind of do the additional stuff. And this is the biggest obstacle, because people are like, I don't have time. What do you mean I got to train? But I tell them, look, like, think of an X, and I know most of your listeners are listening to this in a podcast. In the beginning, it's going to take your time and energy if you don't have systems in place now. Right. And in the beginning, it's going to be a lot of time because you got to build all these things. But if you do it the right way, which I'm going to share with you guys the right way, over time, the amount of time that you have to spend with them goes down while the value goes up. We always tell our clients that typically happens in the 90th day, like anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer for me because now I finally have time to really go out and build a business. And so, okay, so the right way. The right way, right?
I was gonna say, don't dive off the podcast before we like. All right, sayonara. That's it.
Yeah, I'm out.
George Costanza
for the right way.
Yeah.
No, but the right way. Okay, we've got a couple things. Play, pause, do is a big deal. If you've never play, pause, do is just where you actually not only write out the systems or the checklist stuff, but we're on video right now, right? And so I could share my screen and I could talk about the how, the what, the why. So just do the work and record your screen and then talk about what you're up to. So, next time you enter a property into MLS, you just simply hit record on your Mac or your, old school computer, whatever you got, right? And just record your screen and then talk through what you're doing. And then you make 3 to 5 of those videos. And now you have a video library that you can upload to YouTube. And you can say, entering a listing for Daniel Ramsey's, brokerage or whatever. And it can, you literally go step by step, and you had to do it anyways, because, that's part of the process. So you're not spending a lot of extra time. And now you have a documented video process, and most people visually are learners anyways. So writing it down with a video, now you've got next level kind of systems in place to onboard somebody. And the best part of this, Matt, is that if you have turnover, which we all do as business owners, every person I've ever met said their biggest challenge is attracting and retaining talent. Like every CEO, you ask them what their biggest challenge is, like finding people,
Yes. Oh my God.
So, if that's the case, when you document systems, if you do have turnover, it's not a big deal because you can just plug somebody new in. And that is just it's not normal for me. So your original question, when I first started, getting into building standard operating procedures was a big mind shift for me when I first had to do it.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky and fortunate to come out because we both know Frank at Viral. We know that they're a very, very systems based company. Literally everything is checklist based, and so I was very fortunate to come out of that agency, and that was the goal right off the bat, was to get things to that level as quickly as possible. And so as soon as I would figure out a system, I just started documenting it for myself initially, even before I decided to hire somebody for a specific role, because I wanted to document just what I was doing and tweak and improve what I was doing. And so for anybody that's kind of listening, this is something we should be doing for ourselves, even if you never planned to replace yourself in certain areas. Just learning how to document what you're doing and improve what you're doing is extremely beneficial, and it speeds you up. So if you retain something forever in your business, whatever that might be, still checklist it out, still document it. And then of course, when you might think that you'll never give something up, my bet is that once it's documented, you'll go, I don't really change the outcome in most of these things that I'm doing here. You know what I'm saying? Because that's really, you talked about like what moves the needle. It's hard to see the things that move the needle and the things that you don't until you see it laid out in a checklist and you go, yeah, $10 an hour person could do that. Well, there's a decision here. Okay. Maybe I need to make that decision up front. And then if they have this decision up front, well, then they can do those 10 other things in the checklist and the 10 things that come after that decision. And you start realizing, oh, wait a minute. In this whole process, like my involvement only affects the outcome in like 2 tiny spots. And if I just made the decisions or gave them some resource up front before they started work, they'd be able to do the whole checklist of things without me. That is a very, very freeing realization. And I hope that everybody that's listening kind of gets a chance to experience that. Because it makes you feel like a legit business owner.
Well, that is the definition of a legit business owner, is when you have documented processes and systems and you've hired somebody. We've created this thing called the 7-figure business roadmap, right? And this is, if you're listening right now, this is probably the most important thing to write down if you can. Don't crash if you're driving and you're listening, but this is it, right? So when you're in the I do it space, and most real estate professionals, 82% of us are solo, by myself, nobody's doing, like I'm doing it all, right? If you're in the I do it, the most important thing that you can do is learn. You're basically out there trying to understand, what's my value proposition? How am I going to stay profitable? And what do I need to do to really grow the amount of listings that I have? In the next iteration, it's called the we do it. And that in the we do it, it's all about leverage, whether it's leveraging systems like CRM or marketing platforms or companies like Matt's here. But you're learning to leverage systems and people, and that is the main focus. And only 15% of the market ever gets to the we do it, meaning, there's where they have, go ahead.
I said, wow, I've never heard that put that plainly in black and white stats. I'd love to learn where that came from, but that's insanely low.
Well, it's the National Association of Realtors. That's where it came from. They have all the data, right? They know if how productive you are. They know who's on your team. They know.
Oh, this is the what is it? The 50,000 agents that do 25 deals or more.
Right. So in this part, and even those 25 deals or more, most of those people don't have an assistant, because you can handle 2 transactions a month on your own, which is about what 25, is.
24, 25 deals.
Yeah. So 15% of the, 2 million licensed professionals have one assistant, and then only 3% of the market have 2 or more. And so when you start thinking about the differences, it's like, it's a little staggering, to be honest.
Yeah. It shouldn't be shocking, but it is, because it's just insanely low for only 3% of anyone that has a license in real estate to have ever, to be running 2 assistants, or, that's a pretty low bar to jump over. Doing 4, 5, 10 deals a month. You need a couple of assistants helping you out with the transactions and then with the marketing and things like that. I couldn't run my podcast production business. I couldn't have ran, a real estate team or anything like that if it was just all me. It would be insane. And most agents do drive themselves insane, which is unfortunate, because it's not, we're talking about, there's a couple of challenges, there's a little bit of, dealing with more investment of time. We talked about that. We talked a little bit about being able to give up control and trust somebody else to do the things that we lay out for them. But there's an answer for that, which is having systems.
Right.
And that makes it very clear for them to know what we expect. And then it makes it very easy for us to correct things that we don't like, because we can go back to the system and not to them, being not good at what they do, or their behavior, or them being a bad person and slap their wrist. I love the idea of, and of course I'm a systems builder, so of course it appeals to me, but I think where most people struggle is they're not a natural systems builder. Right. And so it's just that initial part is just a struggle to see yourself getting through and breaking through. But as you pointed out, 90 days for that investment, for that freedom, that's really, in the big scheme of things, most people go their entire real estate career and live out the consequences and the misery of just not going through that 90-day process.
Well, and here's another tip, right? Our clients, the most successful ones, and guys, none of what I'm saying is like my opinion. We've had 5,000 clients. We've been around 12 years. We serve the top 10% of the market without a doubt. So Greg Harrelson, client. Like the biggest and the baddest brokers, they figured out leverage, systems, and process. They get it. So the right way to onboard anybody is to figure out, the outcome. So this is another one of those like game changer, parts of the conversation. Job descriptions, those are dead. Like 100%. Like that's the old guard, your grandpa who ran the corporation, forget about it. What you have to do is think in terms of outcomes. Like, what do I need to basically achieve in order to pay this person's salary? And in our world, it's either save you time. So many of our clients say that we've got 40% of my day back because of my outdesk. That's a big deal. The other thing is, reduce costs. A normal everyday employee costs $60,000-$70,000 a year. You got to pay them healthcare. You got to get them an office. You got to buy them a phone system, all of that craziness, right? So the other piece is that we're typically a third of the cost of actually hiring somebody locally in your office.
Yeah.
And then the other one is grow my revenue. Help me prospect, double, triple, quadruple the amount of phone calls going out, the amount of conversations that are happening. So we help our clients discover which of those three outcomes makes the most sense for them. And then we put a plan in place for documenting your systems, making sure you're not screwing this up, because believe me, there's lots of ways to do that. And then you just focus on one thing at a time. Yeah. Matt, the biggest piece of advice, get somebody really good at one of those things before you add another one. As real estate people, we have ADD. I have ADD. Raise your hand if you have ADD on this call right now.
I already forgot what you said.
Yeah, exactly. Squirrel.
Yep, exactly.
So just, if they're going to do your transaction coordination, start with inputting listings in MLS. Get that set, right? Then add on documenting, the transaction by adding all the people into your CRM and getting them into your transaction coordination platform. Do all that work one at a time so they master it before you say, hey, now I want you to do the marketing. Now I want you to make these calls. Now, just do it one at a time before, so they can master it, so you can get that off of your plate forever.
Yeah, that was one of the best things I did for the podcast company, was like hardcore wall off the roles from each other. Yep. And specialize everything so that people weren't doing multiple roles, the same person. It's hard to find somebody that has natural strengths that run towards one role and get them to be good at some other role on top of it. It's taxing. It's hard for them. They feel like a fish out of water half the time. It's a lot easier to specialize your roles and have one VA doing transaction management and one VA doing something else, like the marketing, for example. It's a lot easier to do that. And then while that VA gets one thing down, you can be working with somebody on getting the next set of systems kind of documented and stuff like that. All right. I've got one final question for you. Before we do that though, what's the best way for people to reach out and connect?
Yeah, just jump on our website, myoutdesk.com. We've got a lot of kind of webinars there. We've got a lot of kind of downloads, free guides. We're going through a massive transition right now. I mean, Redfin, OfferPad, iBuyer, brokers have no control. All the control is now with the agents. We're going through a lot of transition in our world, and we've got a ton of resources on our website to help people go through that, whether you want to grow your revenue, save costs, or buy some of your time back. We've got stuff on that website that's going to answer most of your questions. The other thing is we only do full-time placements. So this is a crazy thing. A lot of our competitors do part-time. We used to do part-time, but I had a hard time giving somebody half their time back. I had a hard time having somebody do half the prospecting that they deserve. I had a hard time giving half of the love to somebody, when they deserve all of it.
Okay.
So we only do full-time placements because I know after serving 5,000 clients that it is by far way more valuable, and you need this service if you really want to double your business.
Yeah. Nice. Love it. All right. Final question. And this is a little bit of a curveball. I didn't bring this up before we started recording, but I'm curious because I guarantee you'll have something fun to say to this. What is the craziest thing you or a client has ever outsourced?
Oh, the craziest thing. That's an interesting question. What is the craziest thing that we've ever outsourced?
Yeah, somebody that I heard, there's a guy who he's kind of an influencer and a podcast host who talks a lot about all the interesting things that his VAs do for him. So like all of his personal travel, all of his, researching like birthday party vendors and clowns for his kid, like literally just about anything that you can have outsourced, he'll figure out a way to outsource it. I think the craziest thing, I haven't done anything super, super crazy. I've got my primary VA right now because we're hiring an additional one. I've got her screening the applications for other VAs. That's fun. Like when you start using staff to screen the next iteration of staff, So that's one of the crazier things I've outsourced.
I've got a great story. We've got this client and she landed 3 listings in one day. She didn't know that she was going to land those 3 listings. And it's kind of this is the craziest story within my Outdesk, right?
Okay.
Okay. So check it out. So this is the craziest story or the craziest thing that I've ever heard in our company. And we've done this 5,000 times, right? But here it is. So this woman, she has 3 listings happening all at one time. Our virtual assistant is actually pregnant. She starts doing the first listing coordination package and gets a contraction. And so she's like, I've got time. It's her 3rd or 4th kid. So she's done this before.
This is old.
Yeah. So, then, she gets another listing coordination package and her agent is just like, I'm nailing it. I'm getting it. Right. And then she gets another one. And all of a sudden the contractions are getting shorter. And so finally she finishes the 3 packages. It takes her all afternoon. She's working overtime and she jumps in a taxi and on the way to the hospital actually has the baby in the taxi. Like that's how dedicated she is to her client's business. And like, she's just like, yep, it happened. And the taxi driver delivered. So they delivered a mod baby in a taxi because the virtual assistant was so dedicated to the client.
Oh man.
Business.
Wow. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. And I thought my VA was rocking it because she's been traveling a lot and she's been in like Singapore and China over the last 2 out of the last 4 weeks.
Nice.
But yeah, it's crazy traveling to China. You're not sure what you're going to have access to. She had to do a bunch of jump through hoops to figure out what she was going to be able to do for us. She did an amazing job. They're super devoted, but working while you're having contractions. I feel that one is a new one.
Yeah, I thought that would be. I mean, you asked for crazy, so
that is crazy.
We had one last crazy one. We had a typhoon, right? And so the water level is rising, and we had a virtual assistant who actually went to her roof with her laptop and like a bag and continued to work as the water was rising because she couldn't go on the streets anyways. She didn't want to drive. It's a flood. So she's on like the 4th story of her house on the roof with like an umbrella, and she just kept working because she had internet. And so she was like, yeah, I'm just going to work. And so like our folks, I don't know if you're listening, our folks are dedicated and they're like business partners to you. So, if you start thinking in who's, reach out to us. We'll help you. If we don't help you, no big deal. I'm sure we'll add value to your business, but all we want to do is serve the real estate world and the community and add value to people really.
Yeah. Love it. All right. And then for us on our side, as far as connecting and reaching out, best place to do it is go subscribe to the show, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can leave us a review, 5-star review. And if you enjoyed a particular guest like Daniel, make sure to give him a shout out. Thank him for his time and his contribution in the review. You can also go to McDanielRealEstateSystems.com and catch up on other episodes and stuff like that there. Dan, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Matt, thanks for having me, man. It's great to see you again. And I love what you guys are doing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I know everybody appreciates your time and amazing content. This is a blast. We'll have to have you on back again soon.
Okay, brother. Talk soon.